on a daily basis, we have violence thrown in our face. Like, it's in movies, it's in TV shows, it's in video games, it's on the
Exactly.
news. Women are half naked, writhing around on stages like it's nothing. And yeah, there are people who are upset with that. But for the most part, when women do things like that and sexualize themselves and use their sexuality for, gain or whatever, it's demonized.
I chose on that note, not just because I'm gay. I mean, yeah, obviously that too, but it was also from the quote from the greatest storm comes a very bright rainbow. So that quote really resonated with me. I'm claiming the brightest rainbow ever.
Hi everyone, welcome back if you're a returning viewer to the Brightest Rainbow Ever. I'm Sunny, and I'm very excited we're back for part 2 because we couldn't contain all of the goodness in one video. We had to do another part with Kelly Dawn, and we're going to deepen conversation. A lot has happened since then, like both personally and like collectively, so we have a lot to talk about. So welcome, Kelly Dawn. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me back.
Very happy and excited. So a lot of interesting things have happened in the world since, with the Lil Nas thing that, you and I have like had feelings on, and also interesting parts of the conversation because like I'm pretty expert on, not, I know enough about angels and starting to know more about fairies, and I know you know a lot more about demons, and like there's a lot of myths and preconceptions of that. So I was like thinking we can bust some myths and truths here, and like just also pull on some culture that people seem to be quite proprietary about and just like debunk the shit out of that. Swearing is allowed here, so don't worry.
Oh, perfect. Good to know.
So what would you like people to know about the demons and all, like, which is funny because I saw you share this meme about the demon, like how Christians are really pissed at him even though they created the construct of him. I think you shared that and I laughed so hard at that because it's so true. Like they make a lot of shit up that they get mad about. And like, do you want to talk on that and like all the beliefs around that?
Sure thing. So I know we talked a little bit about this on the last episode, so some things might overlap, but yeah, the devil is something that was made up by Christianity. And I find it so funny that they have this war against evil when God is the one who created evil. And they have this war against the devil when that's literally an entity that they created from different mythologies. Like they plucked things from paganism, they plucked things from different mythologies, and they just created this entity to, in my opinion, invoke fear in people. Because in my understanding, most mainstream religions, even though they can have a lot of positive effects on people, I know people who are in religion, traditional religion, and it's done amazing things for their life. So I'm not knocking the benefits, but when we start looking at the overall programming that's involved and the bullshit that's made up of, it's like you're creating things for control and for fear and to scare people into following a certain way of being. And I know for myself, when I was in church, I hung out mainly in Pentecostal churches, and their way of thinking was very strong in the belief that Jesus is the only way. The only way you're going to get to heaven is if you wholeheartedly believe that Jesus died on the cross for you. And if you don't believe that, you're going to burn in a fiery pit of hell for eternity. Even if you're a fucking saint, you're going to burn in hell if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And when I was in church, I tried so hard to believe. I tried so hard to fit in because I loved the energy. I loved the people. I liked the positive aspects of what I experienced there. But when it came to what was actually written in the Bible, I'm like, I cannot get into this. I just can't. So that's one thing. The whole devil thing, when I learned more about that, I was just like, what else is actual bullshit in this book? Sorry, Oliver's a little bit rangy.
I think he agrees with you. He's like, I hear you. You're right on that. I think it's just confirmation. You know, when people have like this all or nothing binary, always and never kind of thinking, like you were saying, like Jesus is the only way, that really scares me too. Like I find it very disturbing that some people are like so not only by the book in every literal way sometimes, but also to the point of like Jesus is the only way. No other religion matters. Jesus is the only way. Like, talk about instilling fear in people and intimidation, because I mean, especially, as from the queer perspective, it's even more intimidating and terrifying, because like we're taught to believe that being queer and gay is wrong, that there's something inherently wrong with us, and like, like you started to challenge the beliefs and like, wait a minute, there's a bunch of bullshit here. As a queer person, we start to realize, no, wait a minute, I exist, therefore I already am approved and I matter already. So like, the level of bullshit that the church has is just one, harmful for the most part, and scary, and just very limiting and controlling.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the biggest things I had, because I've always had gay friends. Like, I've always thought that was a completely, like, perfectly normal way of living. And in church, it was like, well, we can love those people and also want them to see the truth. And I was like, what? Like, that does not sit right with me. And then moving into like more of like the control thing, and I know it's different depending on which denomination you're in with Christianity, but where I was, it was very heavily taught that the man is the ruler of the house and the woman obeys. It's the woman's job to obey, and the man should be loving. It wasn't encouraged to, like, abuse your wife. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you're in a situation like that, you need to look at where you can be a better wife. Like, that was some of the stuff that I heard. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, this doesn't make any sense, like zero sense. And I'm looking around at people who are literally brainwashed, like little zombies, nodding their head at the pastor going, yep, amen, amen to that.
My God, yeah. The tribe mentality about that is very scary. It's amazing, like, how much people can just run with an idea and just be like, yep, like blind, without having their own critical thinking. That's the scary thing. Yeah. Like, why don't enough people like you stop and think, wait a minute, this is not right? There's not enough people like us who have critical thinking. Not that there are quite a lot, especially when you're queer. You can't help but challenge, like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, it's like, I was in a room on Clubhouse the other day that was talking about, spiritual abuse in the church, and how, like, to your point, Kelly, like, they pretty much enable and defend and justify being in toxic, abusive marriages. Yeah. Whether they're physically abusive to you or not, because like they value marriage so much more than your own personal safety and well-being. It's a real thing. And as a survivor of domestic violence and abuse, it's like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, no wonder the church like has such overall quite toxic beliefs that really hurt more groups of people, even straight people, because straight people get affected by this if they're married and they have a toxic partner and they don't have any support from their church to leave the marriage, or have any resources or structures of support to get out, which is very scary. I mean, people always judge us like, oh, why don't you leave sooner, or whatnot. But it's like, why aren't there enough structures of support to help us get the fuck out? That should be. You have something to say on that?
Yeah, like when you're told to just pray your way through it, and that you chose that mate for a reason, and this is all part of God's plan. Like, if that is not the sickest thing I've ever heard, like, and what really irritates me, and I see this even in the New Age community, because so much in the New Age community is just watered down Christianity. It's just watered down Christianity and religion.
Yes.
But when people assume that people who are into alternative spiritual paths are doing something evil, and they see things like the Satanic Temple or Luciferians or people who are into demonology, and they paint these people with the same brush as like serial killers, because on the news, they might have saw someone who committed a crime and they did it in the name of, Satan or whatever. But it's like, look at how much evil is committed on a regular basis, like pedophilia, spousal abuse, children abuse, things like that. Look at how much of that is committed on a regular basis by these people who are so-called good, pious, religious individuals. And then look at what's actually happening in these other traditions or these other spiritual groups that are a little more misunderstood. And they're the ones that are getting labeled as evil. And the thing with like the Satan shoes that just came out recently.
Oh
Like
my God, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, let's talk on like the uproar of like his video just because he's gay and used like Christian mythology and his all the things. Yeah, let's talk about that.
yeah, the fact that he was gay, there was a lap dance involved, at a lap
And
dance.
black, not to
Yeah,
mention that he's black. Like
yeah,
that just must have pissed off a lot of white Christians.
yeah. And he was giving Satan a lap dance. Like, he just combined like so many elements there that just like set the internet on fire. But I also think certain things like that are planned in order to cover up other things that are going on. I'm not like a full-on conspiracy theorist, but I think that there's certain things that are just dropped on the internet at certain times to keep us busy. But when I saw that happen, and the outrage that, people were, hating on Nike because they thought that they were Satanists and things like that. It's like, do you know how many people have been murdered in the name of Christianity? Like,
That's a
this is,
freaking good point. That doesn't get talked about enough, right? Or like the justified, um, or even like when people use religious beliefs or religious freedom as an excuse to discriminate and hate on people, like, which is kind of the same vein to me, honestly, because like that can be used in a harmful, coercive, controlling way to limit people's rights or people's freedom of expression. I totally hear you. I mean, I didn't see anything inherently wrong or offensive with his videos. Like, I had to watch it a few times to really understand like what the fuck is exactly offensive about this. Like, he's taking, I mean, it made me think like Madonna made a video kind of like similar in vein, like you know what I'm talking about? The Like a Prayer
like a
video.
prayer. Yeah. That was a huge issue when that came out.
I'm sure it was because like I think that was in the 90s. I'm like, what's so different about that? Is it because he's gay and like how dare he reclaim like harmful beliefs and just like show the world like, no, we belong, we come from the same God, like get with a program.
My cat's joining in the conversation.
She's like, you mentioned gay, okay, hi.
Well, the thing that really got me with that whole situation is the uproar that people were in over that. When we're confronted, like on a daily basis, we have violence thrown in our face. Like, it's in movies, it's in TV shows, it's in video games,
Exactly.
it's on the news. Women are half naked, writhing around on stages like it's nothing. And yeah, there are people who are upset with that. But for the most part, when women do things like that and sexualize themselves and use their sexuality for, gain or whatever, it's demonized. But this is a man doing it. And any like the blood in the shoe thing, like people got like all freaked out because there was a drop of blood in the Satan shoe. I'm thinking about the movies I've seen and like like TV shows. I mean, the amount of gore and violence that we see on a regular day-to-day thing is just, it's insane. The fact that people are so worked up over this one little issue, it's like the religious thing. It's the religious thing that triggered people, I think. If it had been just like a regular old, gory, slaughter-filled movie, no big deal, but they brought in the religion.
I know, it's like, I feel like there's just too much hypocrisy and double standardness in our society, and like the things they get wound up about really pales in comparison to what's actually going on and what actual issues is up. Like you're saying, like we have there are so many horror movies I did not watch because they're so violent. Like there was this one movie called, I don't know if you may or may not have seen it. It's called World War Z. I never saw it because I'm like, I don't want to watch something that could happen. Because like, back in the day when Trump was president, that nightmare, I literally felt in any moment that could be the case. Because like he had that inflaring personality. So it's like, why would I want to watch a movie that something could happen? Like you're saying, we create plots and structures that incite and give permission to violence. I mean, like even social media platforms, like I still hold Twitter, Facebook, and stuff responsible for enabling Trump to incite all this violence. But that was like ignored, that was dismissed and gaslighted for years. Like you're saying, social media is also a culprit. What are your thoughts on that too?
Well, yeah, but I think people have been getting off on violence for a long time. Like when we look back to like Roman times, let's throw a man in a fucking arena
Yeah,
with a lion and watch him get ripped apart, or
yeah.
bullfighting to this day. Like human beings can be pieces of shit. Like that's really harsh.
I
We have
totally no,
we
you're
ha-
not wrong on that.
like we have the potential to do such amazing good work in this world, but with that potential to do really good work comes the potential to do absolutely evil shit. And we come from a world, like humanity is, we have nailed people to crosses. That wasn't just a Christian thing. That was the way that they used to, deal with criminals. The torture that they would put witches through back in like the whole witch craze, like the way they treated women and humans in general, children, like no one was exempt from it. But it's just been atrocious to see what humans are capable of. And now it's like we're almost used to it, where you have little
Yeah.
kids playing video games where they're blowing people up and like killing people, slaughtering people, like it's nothing, like no big deal. We're just becoming like more numb to the fact that human lives are precious, all lives are precious. And we're in a space where it's like, well, it's wrong to actually do it, but it's okay to go pay money to watch someone else do it. Like
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
the
that's very weird.